Good morning, Friday the 7th of February. So another weekly update for you today. We're going to record from indoors today just because the wind is affecting quite a bit of recording out on the golf course. So we started the week off with a hand mow to greens. That took off any growth we had over the end of last week, and also it really helps performance. I love getting hand mowers out there, as I've said many times before. The hand mowers are driven with a roller on the back, so it gives the greens a cut and a roll at the same time. It's great for performance, great for winter. Gets the feel back into greenkeeping in terms of if you've got any worn areas, i.e. back right of one where there's quite a lot of traffic that goes back there to get down the steps. We're just able to lift up over those areas and not put too much pressure on the grass that is there, just to give it a bit of a rest. And it's almost it's pretty much impossible to do that with the triples and the tyres going over there and that sort of thing. And the hammers are also very light as we do the perimeters, so it's nice to keep that definition in the greens where we're not causing the wear and tear by turning tight to do those perimeters compared to when the triples do it. So it gives a nice cut and roll for performance, and then doesn't put too much pressure on the perimeters as well. So we keep that nice definition between the greens and the aprons. And also the short game area dried out nicely over the weekend as well. So we're able to get that reopened, the chipping side of that reopened, and got buggies back on at the start of the week as well, which was great. On Tuesday night, we were forecast to have 4 mil of rain, so we put a granular fertiliser out, which worked well with our schedule as well. In terms of, we put a granular out on the greens every 6 to 8 weeks, depending on how much rain we've had. So whether that fertiliser's leached out if we've had a lot of rain, or just on how the greens are performing, whether they're starting to look a little bit weak, whether they're starting to. We're a very, very busy golf course. We're constantly getting foot flow and foot traffic through the golf course where we drain so well, and can host golf a lot during the winter. So greens do sort of take a little bit of a perhaps they do have to cope with a little bit more wear than perhaps many other courses around, because we're open more. So as they start to look a little bit weak in that 6 to 8 period, we'll get back out with a granular fertiliser just to pick them back up and give them a bit more resistance and make the plant a good bit stronger, so we can cope with the number of rounds of golf we get over the winter. Unfortunately, we didn't receive that 4 mil of rain. We only had a sort of mil or two of drizzle, which prevented that fertiliser being washed in. So we've sort of eased off greens on the back end of this week, and just to allow the fertiliser to break down. I'll come on to it in a minute, but it looks like we're going to get some rain or snow at the end of this over the weekend. So that will really help break that fertiliser down, and get it into the soil, and then we can start continuing on with keeping the greens at a high standard, and well maintained. I think we've found a really, really nice weekly approach to performance on greens. So we'll that includes sort of hand mowing Monday, and then back end of the week, sort of Monday, Friday, and then rolling Wednesday, Saturday, and that produces a great putting surface for the winter, and is a nice weekly target to do every week to keep the greens performing well in the winter, as I said. But that can be affected by weather. Obviously, that's always a goal, that's always a target, so we can produce those high standards. But sometimes weather holds us back from that, whether it be frost or rain or anything else in between. Hole changing, we're on a 2-hole change week this week, so they were done Monday and then due to be done on Friday, but we actually changed them on the Thursday afternoon, because we came in Thursday, it was frosty, and looked at the weather forecast, and looked like it was supposed, the temperature wise, it certainly looked like it was supposed to be frosty on Friday morning. It looks like the wind has prevented that, but so Michael Fisher got that a little bit wrong, but that's why we had that maintenance hour gap in, so we could sort of get in between, just give us a break so we can get in and change all the holes so they're ready and done for the weekend. So we did those on Thursday afternoon. Whilst we were doing that as well, we anticipated Friday, as I said, Friday being frosty, and it looks like we're going to get some frosty weather going into the next week or so. So we've taken the caps off of the AstroTurf caps off of those front frost pins because they're very, very difficult to get out when it does freeze solid. So we've taken those off in anticipation so that we can just change over to frost pins. So if you're playing this weekend, you will see that they are open, but that's why they're open, because we're anticipating we'll need to use them at some point. But as I said, if you just bear with us and they're open, so we can change them over. As mentioned, the weather doesn't look great this evening, and it looks like we might get some snow that might be mixed in with some rain as well. So we'll see what that brings us and deal with that accordingly. But that should be a nice amount of rain or moisture to break that fertilizer down. On to projects this week, and we've continued working on the pathways. So another layer went on top of 10. We've just been spreading the layers nice and thin and compacting them down so they're well compacted and don't move around too much, and then also it allows us to monitor the level of stone we have left, to give them all a tidy up and not use it all up on one pathway, and then we can keep adding to them in time as we need. So on 12, we headed up with a digger and leveled it all off, scraped it all off to, as I said, get it level and take a little bit of the Type 1 material away to allow for some room to get the crushed stone in. So once that was finished, we could start bringing the material up and start adding layers to that and compact it in as we went. So as that all followed, and then we worked on this corner as well. This can be a wet corner which has puddles on and things like that where water used to collect previously. So we've just tried to angle and shape that down so any running water will run off the sides rather than gathering on the pathway. And then also we've just done a small area the small area where we come off the sixth green going towards the 7th tee, and it also links into the 12th pathway as well, just to tidy that corner up too. So that's a nice job, sort of well done. Boys have done well up there, and just neatens those finishing touches off. We've continued on topping up sand levels in fairway bunkers. I managed to complete that this week, so all those fairway bunkers should have a good 2 inches of sand, fresh new sand in all over. The only ones we will come back to is the newly constructed ones on 3 and 10. So we know they had a good amount of sand just 2 years ago when they reopened. So we'll do sand levels in them to see how much sand is in them and then top up accordingly. And that's been the process for green sides as well. So whilst the boys have been out topping the fairway ones up, some others have been working on the green side sand levels. We know that they should have some sand in them because we topped them all up ready for Club Championship in June last year, so just over 6 months ago. So we're just scratching around trying to find the sand in those and reshape them, get the sands back in the middles, in the bases. And then using that as an opportunity to make notes as to what greenside bunkers require what levels of sand. So we'll go around next week topping the green sides up, but some will need more than others. Some will need a bit of an overhaul, like the fairways where we've lost a lot of sand out of them and then need a good top up, perhaps the busier ones, and then other ones need we've done the sand levels and found a good amount of sand in them and then just need a thick top dress to give them all a fresh new colour up and to improve, top up the sand levels a little bit and improve the aesthetics of them. And we did get some time to commence this week, so we started on the 17th as we felt those bunkers were lacking the most amount of sand. So just sort of said they've had a bit of an overhaul similar to the fairway ones, so they've had a right good top up. So yeah, we've made a start on those green sides up on 17, and then we'll continue on with the others next week. So I want to do a feature on bunker, particularly bunker construction methods and the base layer that goes into the bunkers, to compare some old renovated bunkers compared to new ones, and how we're trying to learn the lessons from old techniques into how we can any issues that causes, and how we can try to resolve those issues for the long term going forward. So raking these bunkers on 17 over the years and topping them up this week with sand. I believe these were renovated in 2020, which isn't too long ago, and we're noticing that the sand discolors quite quickly. It seems as though the sand is getting contaminated with the underlying soil, or perhaps some wash-ins, and then a lot of stones are coming through and getting through that sand. So we sort of struggle to maintain a clean sand bunker in there. So that was much of the thought process as to why that was happening, and could we come up with a better long-term solution to try and keep the sand for as clean as possible. So if we compare the two base layer construction methods, both are using a permasoil. Permasoil is a sort of powder form material that comes in bags, and we mix that in with a soil which sits, and that soil sits on top of the chalk, and then it's supposed to create a sort of a hard pan material between the chalk and the sand to stop and act as a hard pan material to stop the chalk and the stones coming through, as that is quite an issue that we have here at Ogbourne. So I believe, looking at the left photo, I believe that a thin layer was just spread across the top of the topsoil, and then that didn't really set, didn't really take, and didn't really work huge amounts. So that meant that and I believe that's why a lot of the soil is getting contaminated and mixed in with the bunkers that we have there on 17, and the chalk and the stones are coming through. So learning sort of lessons from that, we felt we still wanted to persevere and go with the permasoil and use it, but we felt that it needed to really get mixed in well, so it set hard all the way through for a 2-inch layer minimum, to create that hard pan. So we've mixed that in really well with the topsoil, and then additionally spread some over the top as well, and then added a bit of moisture to that. We compacted that in just using a garden roller, and then added just a bit of moisture. So we just used a sprayer just to put a bit of moisture on it, just to get that permasoil material to set. So if we compared the bunkers on 17 now, where they're getting topped up with sand, and the bunkers that we did on the third, you can see the bunkers on the third, the sand still looks very clean. It's very similar colour to the new sand that they were putting in. They're always going to discolour ever so slightly, where you may get some wash down from some soil washing down in the bunker from heavy storms, or where we trim the back edges and we end up losing a bit of grass, or leaves break down and rot in there. That causes a little bit of discoloration to the sand, but it's still, given they've done 2 years ago and they haven't had any top up, they've not been touched in terms of topping up sand since. We're really delighted with how those bunkers on 10 and 3 are performing. We haven't had any sand level issues. There's very limited number of stones coming through, so that's really taught us a good a good technique, and we're really positive, and feel confident going forward with how we would construct any bunkers going forward. Is really important technique to learn to really get that permasoil mixed in well to create as I said, a good solid 2, 3, 4 inch layer of solid layer to between the chalk and the sand. Doesn't mean they're perfect. It doesn't mean they're the finished article. We're still working on them. We're still learning things from them. So, for example, we find that they can be a bit weedy, with grass growing through that sort of. We use a rich topsoil which we mix in with the permasoil. Something I would like to explore as we go forward is perhaps mixing that into a sand, so it's a little bit less fertile, and hopefully we'll get a few less weeds in that. So that'll be potentially the next stage to really try and mix that permasoil in with sand to try and keep the bunker sand that's above there even cleaner of weeds as well as the stones. So but yeah, I think it's a huge positive to take forward of the construction techniques that we use when we renovated those bunkers, and really learnt a lesson well, and use that to improve long-term solutions and come up with a solution which is going to hopefully stop the stones and the chalk coming through. And I think we've done really well, and I think those new bunkers are really holding up to the task. And as I said, we haven't topped any sand levels up, and we're not seeing too many stones coming through. And the sand isn't getting too contaminated as well. So I think that we've done a really good job of those liners to produce good bunkers. So as I said, lots of confidence going forward with that. So to summarise, and what I'm trying to get across is the fact that we should take those bunkers on the 3rd and the 10th as a blueprint for going forward, because we found the long-term solution. It's just now working on winter plans and winter projects to start upgrading the in the bunkers in that fashion. Sometimes I can receive feedback of all the bunkers are rubbish here, there's no sand in them, they're stony, they're always going to be like that because the chalk that's underneath. Well, I think that those points can be absolutely valid and absolutely correct in terms of we may not always be on sand levels, because it's a lot of labour and man hours to maintain them with very open exposed sites. So sand can get blown all around into pockets in the bunkers. Quite often sand is hit one way and then raked another. So quite often and sometimes there can be a lot of sand in the bunker, but it's all in the wrong places. And as I said, it can be hard to stay on top of. So I think how consistent those bunkers on 3 and 10 have been since we've built them is very much the blueprint for how we move forward. And I think we've found a good long-term solution, and that's where we need to. It's a standard we need to take throughout the course as we work through. We're sort of coming up with a strategic plan at the moment of how we go through and update all the bunkers and tees and all sorts of things on the golf course. But that's very much the standard that we will be using going forward, and the blueprint we'll be using, and what we should aim towards, and how we should be judged. It's a case of all the others. We'll maintain them to the highest level we can until we get to the stage where we renovate them, and use that model, that blueprint of 3 and 10 going forward to come up with a good long-term solution for well-performing bunkers across the site. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Had a couple of people come up this week and say the YouTube stuff's great. Keep it going. They're really enjoying it. So thanks for that feedback. It is nice to feel that efforts are rewarded, and enjoy hearing that. So it's good to know that people are enjoying them. Looking forward to next week. We've got Greg in on Monday, so Greg and I are going to be doing some soil testing to test for thatch levels and nutrient levels in the greens. We've got a few regular greens that we test every year, so gives us a good guide as to where our greens are at and what maintenance they require. And then Greg and I are going to be just looking over some of the strategic plan that we're looking to do going forward, and what the projects that are going to be on 2025, and looking at the work that's going to be entailed in that, and then pricing up for the exec and things like that. So that's an exciting Monday for me, and look forward to getting in and spending a bit of time with Greg doing that. And then continuing on with the bunkers, the greenside bunkers, as discussed. So we'll hopefully get all those knocked out next week, and also do adding a bit more material to the 10th path. And then the following week we've got a course renovations week, where we'll start spiking and putting plenty of sand out on greens and tees and things like that. So a bit of time in the workshop to get all our machines prepped and ready for those jobs. So yeah, that again, thanks for listening, and look forward to catching up again next week.